is faith. If you're saved or not saved, you have faith. You have faith that we're going to take our next breath. You have faith that you're going to wake up in the morning. You got faith that you got your job. You got faith maybe if you're married that your wife loves you, and that you have faith in a lot of different things. But the main thing is, like, do you have faith in God? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the process of, in my life, how my faith has grown. And I'm going to do the best of my ability to back that up with Scripture. And then I'm going to share my life story along with the Scripture that I'm going to read. So I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit. But if you would turn to Hebrews 11:1. And it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, or the evidence of things not seen." And like I said, we have faith that we hope that we go to work tomorrow and have our job. We have hope in a lot of things. And having faith, when you're talking from a Christian standpoint, is do I have faith that the Lord wants to change my life? Do I have faith that the Lord can change anybody's life? Because we can't go out and minister to the lost world if we don't believe that somebody's too far gone. And like I said, I'm guilty of this sometimes. And I can guarantee you, when I'm lacking faith, it's because I'm not reading my prayer life and I'm not submitting to the Lord. So it's, faith, as you're going to see, faith, all these things that I'm going to talk about can happen within a moment of your life. Because, just let me get into it, I'm sorry. All right, one more thing on Hebrews in 11:6. It says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him." So, when you can't be saved, and you can really do anything if you don't have faith that he is God and that he wants the best for your life. Amen. And just like when I first got saved, I was sharing with Demarion, I think, and Josh last night, that my prayers weren't, I never really prayed for myself. I prayed just to be forgiven of my sins, but I still didn't have a grasp that all this stuff God has for me. But it's so hard to want to look at yourself and know these promises apply to everyone that is saved. And the reason that is, I truly believe, is because I didn't have no worth in myself. I still had shame. I was looking at what I've had done before. The people that lost sleep, worried about me coming home. Just the person that I was before. And I believe that God had all these amazing plans for everybody else, and he wanted to bless them, and when he had time, pretty much, he'll bless me. And it was a hard time because I wasn't praying for the things it wasn't materialistic things, but I needed help. I needed healing to get rid of some of the shame that I've had, and to heal the relationships that I've broken. And finally, when I was encouraged, that you should pray for yourself, because I can't help anybody if I'm not right. Yeah. And this seems kind of simple, but you can't give anybody any water if you have an empty cup. Amen. And trust me, I've tried to go out and witness to people. I've tried to be a brother to people, tried to encourage people, and you'll know in your own life, when you have nothing to give people, it's very hard. And it's a process of growing and just knowing that you, like we've been talking about the temperature of our faith, and that's a pretty good indicator that your faith is cold, because we have nothing to offer. I mean, we always have something to offer with our time and stuff, but it's very hard to help other people when we need help ourselves. And we're always going to need help, but as long as we're trusting in the Lord and we have faith that this is taken care of. I'm able to get up here and do this. I'm able to go out to other people and be what they need me to be. And that's only by faith that I'm not looking at my problems and my situations around me. Yeah, we have to deal with those things. But as long as my eyes are on myself, I'm really not going to be able to be there for anybody and help them. So if you could turn to Mark 4. We're going to start in verse 35. And it says, And the same day when the evening was come, he saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there was also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship. The hinder means the back part of like where they steer it, the udder. And it says that apart from the ship, asleep on a pillow, and they wake him. And they say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we should perish? And he rose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And when he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Okay, when I'm reading this, all these stories in the Bible are pictures for us today. And I put myself in this, and the people that are in the boat are his disciples, people that he has chosen. And if you read earlier in the chapter, Jesus has already performed miracles. So they know that there's something different about this Jesus that they're in the boat with. And there's just something that he says in 40. He says, Ye have no faith. And that just, that strikes me to the core. And let me go back up a little bit. I'm sorry. What I wrote is, the storms are happening and the storms are coming. Amen. Now, Jesus is with them. And if you're a Christian, Jesus is with you. Amen. And it's just amazing that he's asleep. And, we have that access. They're in the boat with him. And there should be some comfort in that.
That's right. That's right.
But, we fail and we lose sight on that. And think about your own life. If, coming out of addiction, coming out of anything, it didn't make sense to me because the world tells me I have to do all these steps and I'm going to be this forever. Well, when I read the Bible, it says your faith is healed or your faith has made you whole. So do I have faith in what the world's telling me, or am I going to believe what God had said? And by the grace of God, I believe what he said. I don't believe I'm an addict. I don't believe I'm anything that I used to be.
Amen. That's right.
And what the Lord spoke to me it says peace and be still. My brother shared this morning. That's what the Lord did for you. Amen. I'm not trying to call you out, but he just said, he gave you his peace and said, be still.
That's right.
Because we fight so much stuff. And all he wanted to do is do this.
That's right.
And this illustration is that we're promised that the storms are coming. Some of us, we're going through storms now. And it doesn't matter how big or little your storm is. The Lord's just been telling me not to compare what I'm going through. Amen. And then hear my brother or sister going through something and say that you don't matter.
That's right.
Because it does matter.
That's right.
God wants to help you no matter how big or how small your storm is. And don't look around, and the same thing with with your faith and everything. Don't look around at other people. Just be still, and have peace and let God speak to you. Because for me, when I'm doing a bunch of stuff, it's hard for God to speak to me until he sets me down and he gets my attention, and it's usually not fun. And it's because I'm not doing what I need to do. So and 40, and he said unto them, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And I believe this is what the Lord gave me, is we've seen him do so much. If you know that you are saved, go back to that foundation if you have to. If you're shooken and your faith is low, go back to where that day that you had an encounter with the Lord and you know that you're saved, because that's the foundation of everything. And then I guarantee that you can build on that. And you're going to look back, and then you're going to look at this little thing that you have over here. And you're going to, my prayers are, here I am, I'm ignorant. I'm sorry that I don't have faith. Because like I've already seen him move so many mountains and just so much stuff in my life. And now I'm over here at this little rock and I'm defeated. It's because I'm not being obedient and listening to him. So I encourage you, no matter what you're going through, just go back and remind yourself what you have seen God do, because then that's going to snowball and you're going to build up, and then you're going to be able to conquer anything in the world, because you know that he's strong enough and he's already done it for you, and you can build on that. And so with that, and then after you do that, once you have I don't want to say build the case, but once you have reminded yourself what he has done, praise him for that. Amen. Because what that does is you get your spirit moving, and then you're gonna be prompted to get right, and you're gonna pray and repent for your lack of faith, and he's gonna reveal stuff for you because you're looking to him again, and then he's going to help you, because that's what we need. I mean, there's no other way. That's right. And it's sad because I've seen some miracles in my life, and then 10 minutes later, I have some doubts, and it just does not make sense. And then I have to constantly remind myself. But by praising him, when I was in New Destiny, I made I don't want to say a commitment, but I made a thing that if there was ever an opportunity that I could be grateful, I would do it. Because he's worthy of our praise. And another thing is we always have something to be grateful for. And then that's what builds us in the recognition of what he's doing in our life. And it goes back to, again, like, if he just helped you get out of bed with a smile or whatever he's doing, it's not a competition amongst us well, God has done this in my life and stuff. And it doesn't matter what he's delivered you from. If he has done something in your life, he deserves, even if he does nothing in your life, he deserves to be praised. But don't feel like you're in competition with your brothers and sisters. Be grateful for what God's doing for you. Because at the end of the day, you know, your peace and joy is what comes from your relationship with him, and you know, the building of your faith and going forward from that point. And obviously, while you're doing these things of building your faith, even during these times, even when it's hard, you have to pray and read, because sometimes God's not going to speak to you like audibly. He's going to speak through His Word, and praying is where we see results. That's where, you know, people are in this room today because of prayer. And I'm standing up here because people prayed for me and believe that I could be something, you know, for the glory of God, even when myself I found no worth. And so then I have just pray for each other is so important. And when you see a brother or sister down and their faith ain't, you know, they're not walking in faith. You know, we were talking last night, and that's a thing that it's hard, you know, because we were talking. It says, "I'll lay my life down for you." You know, there's no greater love than a man lay his life down for you. That's easy. Like, I mean, not easy, but it seems easier to me that if God wanted me to die for you, I would die, because I have no suffering. Because when I die, I'm gone, and I'm in the presence of God. But while I'm on earth, he actually says to die to myself. And how that looks is getting up under people that aren't strong enough to carry people. And, I shared with him last night that, that's one thing that I lack. And it's real easy to be around your brothers and sisters, and when everything's going good and rejoice, that's easy. But, when you see your brother with his head down, Are you willing to miss the lunch after this? Are you willing to give your time, maybe just a phone call or whatever it is? And I'm challenged by that because it's going to cost you something. And like I was sharing with them last night, that if I really care about you and I want to get to the bottom of things, I'm going to have to go into your hurts with you. And for myself, I'm going to have to be willing to share my hurts. And it's going to cost us something. And you know, it's like dying. I know it's an amazing thing if you die for Christ and if that's your, you know, the calling on your life for that. But we're called to die for one another. And it's not just a physical death. It's giving up our time and whatever, like I had said. And I'm challenged by that because it's easy to pick and choose who you want to be there for. And you know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful that some of you guys have chosen to stick with me and help me through. And you know, and Doug mostly, because me and him we're kind of like-minded, and you know, and he's helped me, you know, bear some things for me, and we were able to. It's not easy because you're gonna have to tell somebody that they're being stupid sometimes. I mean, don't use those words, but you're gonna have to tell somebody that what they're thinking is not right, and what you're gonna call each other out. And I'm not gonna say me and Doug has done it right, you know, and Greg and other people to bear it. But if you're willing to know that your brother really cares about you, it's not their approach, it's what they're saying, and just be willing to carry their hurts with them or whatever it is, and just be there for them and help them. So that's so now the second part. The word that I put is community. I actually kind of just went over that. But if you'll turn to Matthew 14. And you'll see a theme for some reason. I love boats, and like the person that in the Bible, hopefully that should be Jesus that I'm most compatible with, but is the disciple Peter. And I don't really know a whole bunch about him. I know that he was kind of stubborn, and I knew that he did a lot of things in faith, but it was like his walk sometimes would be like a heartbeat. And I'm trying not to continue that in my own walk, but to be more stable in my walk. But so I'm going to read in 14. I'm going to start in 15, and I'm going to read to 36. This is kind of long, but. And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals," which is food. But Jesus said unto them, "They need not depart, give ye them to eat." And they say unto him, "We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He said, "Bring them hither to me." And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake them, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat and were filled. And they took up the fragments that remained, 12 baskets full. And they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides men and women. I'm going to stop and talk about it for a second. The Lord already knew that. He knew that the people needed to eat. And he actually, I believe here that he built their faith, because they said they had something to offer. And, you know, God chose to feed, it says 5,000 men. And that doesn't count wife and children, right? So I don't know how many kids they all had, but the minimum is 5,000 people. And he did that with 2 loaves of bread, I got sidetracked, sorry. 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Now you would think, after seeing that, you would be like, this is God, whatever he says, I'm going to do. But as the story goes, that's not what happened. But I do believe that their faith was built a little bit here. And this is just the real struggle of the Christian walk. So I'm going to start back in 22. And it says, straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain away to pray, apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with the waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. When they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, Of a truth thou art the Son of God. All right, if you notice in the first one, it said that ye have, or it said no faith. And here Jesus says, of thou of little faith. So like they had some faith. And I believe that Peter represented that there by doing it. And to me, when I think about the boat, sometimes the Lord has to get us away from a lot of things. And I believe that's what the ocean represents. I believe the boat represents the church. And sometimes he has to get us away from things so he can really get our attention. And even in 23, even Jesus prayed, like multiple times he prayed. And even after he had did this, Jesus, it was God walking on earth, but his will was to do the will of the Father. So he continually looked to him. And I believe that's where my faith, when I'm not looking to Jesus, that's just lack of faith. I don't think this is like a super complicated thing. I know it's it's our walk, and we have to grow, and we have to learn to trust the Lord. And only way you're going to do that is by seeing him do things. And if you're sitting here today, it's a good chance that you're a miracle. Like, so many of us should be dead by the choices that we've made. Not just drugs and alcohol, maybe car wrecks, just some dumb choices that we've made our whole life. And so the last thing that I have, which what I just read, is trusting God. That's how you build your faith. This is where it gets real, because trusting God when you don't know the outcomes. And how that looked for me in my life was when I quit my job and not knowing that I already had another job, I just knew that I had to quit. And God blessed me with an amazing job, and I use it. I haven't always used it because I'm growing, and I failed a lot of work, but I've gotten to, Hunter, the young kid, I got to see him get saved. I just went back to a new job this Tuesday, and people are actually glad to have me around, and that's because I try to be positive, and a lot of people, not a lot, but people mock me, and they make fun of me for the stuff that I'm trying to do, and but when I choose to just have faith that God's still going to do something and pray for him instead of trying to argue with him, and believing that I don't think it's ever happened that someone got won over or they were saved because you argued with them. Because me being stubborn, if you try to tell me something, the first thing I'm doing is probably putting up a wall, and I'm trying to work on that myself. But it's the building of our faith, and this is where you want to be, because this is where you're going to be closest to God, because you're going to be relying on him more. And the way that this speaks to me is that we all have a calling on our life in here, and we're all called, to preach the gospel. Maybe not up here, but amongst your family and friends and everything. First off, do you believe that he has the power to save the people that we're trying to talk to? And, even witnessing is, it's a growth process. When I can remember when I first got New Destiny, Mr. Brooks we'd go down to Snydertown, and I would deliberately not walk with him because he would talk to everybody. And it's an amazing thing because I learned from him, and he's got something to tell people. And we got something to tell people, and if you really care for people, we want to take hope out into the world. And when I learned that I do have something to say, now, like today, I'm excited to come up here and just to be able to talk and share what God's doing in my life to you guys. And I hope that it's an encouragement. And it's scary. And another thing that I do, if I've ever asked to speak or give my testimony, before I can even think about it, I say yeah. Because if I don't do that, I'll create doubt and I'll find every excuse to not do it. And just by saying yeah, if it's meant for you to do it, do it. But and the Lord He'll do the work if you allow Him to do it. And I want to just talk about a couple more things. It's when I'm going to start back in 26. And it says, when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit," and they cried out. I know personally that I've seen the Lord doing some work in people's lives and stuff, and I questioned it. And, that's not good, obviously, but that's just, it's just being real. And then 27 says, "But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid." That's amazing things, because, when the Lord has your back, you shouldn't be afraid because, He's the creator of everything and He is everything, and the battle's already been won. We're just walking in victory till that day that we see Him, and the worst thing that anybody can do on this world is take your life. But for us as Christians, it's actually a blessing. Not that I'm encouraging people to go get killed or whatever, but there's so many promises there. He said there'll be no more tears, no more sorrow. It'll be perfect. We won't be bound by this flesh, and it's just a truly amazing thing. And just a couple more things. It said in 28, it says, "And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come on the water." I believe that Satan can send some spirits towards you. I think it's okay sometimes to question the spirit at first and make sure that it is from God, because I know that I thought before I was stepping on water and straight sank. And, that's because I didn't see who was really telling me to do something. And if we're going to be honest, we probably do that on a daily basis. And, but this is where it gets amazing. This is like what it's all about. But he said, he told Peter to come. And when God tells you to come and to do something, you can walk on water, and it doesn't have to be as extravagant as that. Like I said, anything that the Lord's telling you, there's no levels of a miracle in your life or a blessing that God's doing when you're being obedient. He tells you to come, and I'm just thinking, Peter stepped out of the boat, and this might be a little crazy sounding, but was the water, was it ice, or did he sink a little bit? And it says, if you read, it says that the waves were coming. And so it wasn't like he was stepping out on a smooth water surface. I'm pretty sure Peter seen that before he stepped out of that boat. He looked out there and seen all the waves. And I'm just wondering, how high was the boat? or whatever? Did he have to hang and lower himself down? Or either way, he was out of all the people on that boat, he was willing to obey what God had said and said, "Come." Even I guarantee he didn't know how he was going to walk on water, but when the Lord told him to come, he believed him and believed he was who he says he was, and he did it. And we've all walked on water in some sense in our life until what? Until we look what's going on around us, and then that's when we start to sink. But the greatest thing is, and the reason the story means so much to me, because there's a picture out of New Destiny, and this is for Christians and people that aren't saved, is Jesus is always, he's still standing on water. And he's always standing there with his hand out. And all you have to do is say, "Save me." And that could be from any situation, that could be from your eternal, from eternal damnation. Whatever it is, Jesus is always standing there with his hand out. And if you will humble yourself and put your pride down and admit that you need help, he's always faithful to be standing right there and pull you up. And then another thing, this is how my brain works. And it says that, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, "O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt?" And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. What I'm thinking is, did Peter walk back to the boat, back on water? Did Jesus have to drag him? But they went back in the boat.
Amen. That's right.
And that's the thing. We'll probably never know, but that's just how my brain works. And seeing you're sinking, and you walk back to the boat, even though you've already walked on water. Either way, Jesus put him back in that boat, put him right where he needed to be. And and it says, and when they were coming to the ship, the wind ceased. So when you were in a comfort where the Lord had you, and you reached out and he was holding you, all this stuff was gone. And he was right where he needed to be. And he was in the congregation. I believe the boat represents the church. And he was right in the middle where they all needed him to be, especially Peter. And it says, when they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying of a truth, thou art the Son of God. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of spectators watching what had happened. For me, I want to be the person that's going to step outside this building and be used. And if you have to see me fall or sink, I want to have the heart to be willing to step out of that boat and be Peter. And it doesn't make sense, but when the Lord tells you to do it, and nothing against the people that stayed in the boat, but I truly believe that that's a lack of faith on their part. But the good thing is when Peter did